Okay, good evening, everyone. Happy 2025. You're here for our very first meeting of 2025. It's Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. To say that again, 7:30 p.m. We're going to begin our regularly scheduled meeting. We're going to begin by calling the meeting to order. And we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And once we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to be joined by Aaron Kozad, ordained Dharm teacher from Dharma Gate Zen of Troy. And if I butchered that, please correct me when you get to the podium. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so you got it all right. Aaron Kozad, Dharma Gate Zen. So Dharma Gate Zen is a little Zen center just up the road from here. And so I was thinking that, the common uniting factor of everyone in this room is a desire to make our immediate community better. That's why we're all here. Changing the world is a tall order, right? So I wanted to share from a Zen perspective how we approach this. What we do is we lean on our practice and our spiritual ritual practice, meditation, to look inward, to see how we can change ourselves, to be the better version of ourselves, the version that we wish to be. And then through daily interaction, we try to make the world around us a better place, one interaction at a time, by making ourselves better. As a community of all individuals, I think if we all focus on each making ourselves the best version that we can be, the world will change itself.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, may we have a roll call?
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Here.
Mayor Milan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Present.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to approve our agenda?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented for Tuesday, January 7th, 2025.
Support.
Michelle?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. We've approved our agenda. We have no proclamations or presentations this evening. We'll move to item number 8. Oh, no, we'll move back to item number 6. I was going to skip public comment, which I always try and do. If anyone's here this evening and they'd like to speak to anything that's on our agenda, we welcome you to come to the podium. We'll allow you 3 minutes. Okay, not seeing anyone come to the podium. We will move on from public comment and go back to item number 8, which is consideration of approving the following consent agenda. Item A is minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. Item B, a list of bills in the amount of $1,754,367.31.
So moved.
Support.
Michelle?
Councilmember Binkowski.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. We have approved our consent agenda, and we'll move on to item number 9, which is new business. Under item 9A, we have consideration of approving a resolution in support of Loaded Dice Brewery, 400 South Main Street, for their new on-premises tasting room permit. Sorry about that.
Madam Mayor, I move that the application from Loaded Dice Brewery LLC for a new on-premises tasting room permit to be located at 400 South Main Street be approved, and that it is the consensus of this body that it recommends this application be considered for approval by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Support.
Nick,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Loaded Dice Brewery is located in Clawson, Michigan, with an estimated opening in the summer of 2025. They are requesting local government approval for an on-premises tasting room with Sunday sales permit from Troy, Michigan to Clawson, Michigan. The on-premises tasting room permit requires an approval from the local government unit. An on-premises tasting room permit allows a manufacturer to sell alcoholic liquor at manufacturers to consumers for consumption on or off the licensed premises at its licensed manufacturing premises. The applicant and staff will be present if there are any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Anyone here want to speak on that? Is there anyone here representing the taste?
But Nick said everything.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's been about a year in the waiting, right? It's
A
about,
little longer than that.
okay.
I tend not to look at the calendar anymore.
Okay, then let's have a roll call, please. Michelle?
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski.
Yes.
Great, thank you. We have approved sending a Michigan Liquor Control Commission approval for this location, and we look forward to having you up and operational in the near future. Thank you. Moving on to item 9B, we have consideration of approving a resolution in support of Vigilante Kitchen, 76 West 14 Mile Road, for their new on-premises Class C redevelopment liquor license.
I move the application for the Vigilante Kitchen on the, a new on-premise Class C redevelopment liquor license to be located at 76 West 14 Mile be approved, and that it is the consensus of this body that the recommendation, that it recommends this application be considered for approval by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Support.
Nick?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Vigilante Kitchen is making plans to take over the space vacated by the former Limbs Palace at 76 West 14 Mile. They'd like to make an application to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for an on-premises Class C redevelopment liquor license. In order to make the application, the MLCC requires a resolution in support from the City Council. The resolution form was provided in the packet for your review. Again, the applicant and staff will be present to answer any questions.
Great. Would you like to come back up?
Yeah, that sounds good. Hi.
Hi.
So Vigilante Kitchen is sort of the culmination of everything I've done in my career. It's very heavily food focused. The liquor is really just there to support what we're doing, to give you a full experience. And because we're giving, it's going to be a considerable amount of money we're putting into the business in order to help keep that viable. Just to tell you a little bit about Vigilante Kitchen, the food itself is elevated Midwest with world influence and classical French roots. So we make everything from scratch. And then we bring in sort of world flavors to make things that are sort of normal comfort food a little more exciting. So think, instead of grilled cheese and tomato soup, our tomato soup has a aka miso shiitake scallion base. And then the grilled cheese is a sourdough with house smoked pinconning, taleggio, and caramelized onions. So we elevate it to this different level and make it a little more exciting, but it's very accessible. Additionally, Vigilante Kitchen is very much an experience. So from the design up through the service, we want people to come in, be present, and have something that they've not seen anywhere else before. Lastly, Vigilante Kitchen, the reason I started it was for a social mission. So throughout my work in the industry, I've seen how addiction has sort of ravaged my coworkers, and myself included. About 12, actually going on 13 years ago now, I started down my own path of recovery, and through that process was able to help a lot of people in all of the destination restaurants that I created. However, I saw that if I wanted to do this in a meaningful way, I had to make a business where this was the core of its purpose. So we did launch Vigilante Kitchen last year. We were awarded a spot on the Best New Restaurants of the Free Press, and I was actually given Chef of the Year award, which was an honor. And we would like to relocate that here to sort of my hometown. I grew up here when I was a child. My grandfather was a Methodist minister right down the street, and I really have an affinity for the city. My wife, Heaven, and I are going to be running it together. So you'll have a true mom and pop of locals trying to give the community something that they just haven't seen before.
Sounds exciting. Ready for you to get in here. Let's do this.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Yeah.
You have any questions?
Where were you located before?
Downtown Detroit.
About where?
On Selden Street,
Okay.
right next to Condado Taco and
Okay.
Barcade. We were right in the middle there on the
Selden
courtyard.
Standard was around the corner, or?
Yeah, right
Okay.
around the corner from us.
All right, I know the area, okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Roll call, please, Michelle.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
and Mayor Milan.
Yes, and we have just approved submitting a Michigan Liquor Control Commission license for Vigilante Kitchen, and we look forward to you getting up and running in the near future, too. Thank you so much for choosing Clausen. Item 9C, we have consideration of a first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance in general contracts.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 20, Contracts, Article 1, in general, Section 30, Contracts, outlining the regulations, definitions, prohibitions, and sanctions for violations therein.
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Riker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the new city charter, Chapter 1401, the city council shall establish by ordinance the procedures for the purchasing or contracting for supplies, materials, equipment, and service. The ordinance committee debated the contents before you at length, with consensus noting that a purchasing threshold and the consideration of waiving competitive bidding were items that likely would require greater debate. In the previous version of the contracts ordinance, one of the sections focused on a council's ability to waive competitive bidding upon the recommendation of the purchasing agent, myself as the city manager. The ordinance review committee debated the issue and was largely in agreement that the votes concerning contracts and waivers of bidding should be based on positively stated motions and voted upon a simple majority as throughout the remainder of the Code of Ordinances.
Any questions, concerns from council?
Is this go ahead. Is this an amendment or change to the proposal of 4/5 to override the competitive bidding?
That's exactly what it is
So it'll
addressing.
become a simple majority.
That's correct.
I'll just go on the record by stating I think it's a very bad idea. I think competitive bidding is the hallmark of municipal contracting, and that without it and us using a simple majority to bypass a competitive bid is very dangerous, may lead to corruption or other bad ills for the community. So I will be voting against this.
Thank you.
Just a comment. I was just down at the Guardian Building. It was interesting that in visiting that a mural that they had in their main space, that since that is a government building, they have to do contracted bidding all the time for repair for that mural. The unfortunate thing, or fortunate thing, is it's the same person every single time. So it seems to be a waste of time to constantly go back to the same person who's a professional at it, since there's no one else who can do that. Or if there is, whether or not they'd be able to do it the same method. So I'd be in support of this.
I like the idea of the was it 4/5 majority, because it makes it be a hurdle. It makes there be some significant consideration that needs to take place other than a simple majority. And so I kind of side with Councilmember Binkowski that I think that should have been left intact. And so I would vote against this as well.
Yes, sir.
If I may remind council and the viewing audience that when it came to the miscellaneous concrete program, by having this 4/5 requirement in there, members of council could be somewhat of a spoiler and forced us to spend more money on the design evaluation of the product as opposed to, or of the project as opposed to having put that money into the ground as far as cement is concerned. So we knew that, I think it was miscellaneous concrete 4.0 or 5.0, where members of council made it clear, like, hey, this has got to go out for bid. And when it went out for bid, it cost us more and we got less.
Obviously, that was an example, but I think that, you know, being good fiduciaries of the city's money, it requires going out to bid. And, you know, that might be an example, your mural example might be of how it ends up, but that's not necessarily, I mean, correlation's not causation. It might be that no one wants to do the mural. There could be a plethora of reasons why the same person keeps being there for the mural. So I think that having that extra due diligence of always doing a quote, like when you do stuff in your house, you get a bunch of quotes to find out the best price, and the city should be doing the same thing.
Okay, thanks.
I agree that the concept of no bid contract should be allowed. I just feel uncomfortable with a simple majority overriding that, so I'll be voting against it.
So, I mean, that, I'm speaking directly to you, then Councilman Anderson. That's concerning because what we explained before actually was a cost savings and gave greater material addition to the needs of the community.
Yes.
And just by virtue of arbitrarily saying, you know, no, we're going to go out, we want this put out for a competitive bid, that you're making that requirement.
Agreed, it was an unwise decision to not go with the single bid in that case. However, the concept is important enough that in general, I think the council needs more than a simple majority to override the competitive bidding. I voted for the no bid contract in that case. Unfortunately, not all my colleagues agreed. But going forward in the future, yeah, I think to override the competitive bidding would require, I think it's wise to have more than a simple majority to do that. Granted, city management can move with greater agility if you can have a simpler process for no bid awards. But in general, yeah, I'm just a little uncomfortable with the concept.
I'll just say, the more bureaucracy we add, the less efficient we become. And I understand that this is a one check, but we still have the ability to prevent if we so desire. So I still support.
And I support it as well. This is not eliminating the need or desire to pursue competitive bidding. Competitive bidding would be pursued in appropriate situations as usual. It's not to eliminate that. I think that's really important. It's just about the number of council members it would take in order to move something forward without. And I support this. I do
So
support
just,
this.
if I may jump in again, for your clarification, Councilman Anderson, that's all still part of the process, can be part of the process. But allowing, I feel you're giving some people that may just want to simply be spoilers, the opportunity to be such.
Granted, that's always the risk when you're addressing a body, that some people can be spoilers. I think in the original charter, when it required 4 out of 5, the reason for the charter writers to put that is they felt that no bid contract should be very much the exception. And thus, it's kind of a supermajority required to override a bid quote. So that's my concern. It's the general concept as a whole that no bid contract should be very much the exception, not a rule. And so, yeah, in a sense, you kind of have to sell it to the body.
I think there's wisdom in what Councilmember Anderson is saying. It should be more difficult, not easier, to do a no bid, and that's what this rule sets up.
Keeping in mind that it does put you somewhat at the mercy of the wisdom or foolishness of council.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Councilmember Binkowski?
No.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
No?
Pass, so I'm assuming that will go back for a rewrite or reconsideration, or does it die here?
I mean, it died, basically.
Well, I mean, I obviously,
Well, it
but
can come back for a second reading, but
No,
It
it cannot
didn't
come
pass
to.
the first reading.
It cannot come back for a second reading. We're going to bring it back to the ordinance committee one more time and then consider, well, it's only the one change. I don't believe council ruled in any other aspect, so I think we can bring it back for consideration with a one
With the change.
amendment for your review and consideration, so to speak.
Okay.
Because obviously, our charter mandates that we have a contract, or states that we should have a contract, ordinance section, so we'll bring it back before you.
that is what I meant. Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 9D, we have consideration of the planned unit development for 150 North Main Street and 36 Lincoln.
Move to approve the proposed planned unit development for 150 North Main and 36 Lincoln as approved, subject to the preparation of a planned unit development agreement.
Support.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During the December 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting, the applicants for the planned unit development presented their updated proposal along with both the market and traffic analysis reports and an updated list of public benefits. During this meeting, the City Council and applicants discussed specific characteristics of the proposal consisting of density, the first floor commercial liner use, and parking. The applicants have modified the floor plan in an effort to address concerns of City Council. The key changes of the plans are as follows. Reduce the unit count of 60 units down to 56 units. With this modification, the site now meets the parking requirements in the zoning ordinance, which removed a previous deviation of the PUD. The building height has been increased to 37 feet from 35 feet. This is due to the first floor height being raised to 13 feet from 11 feet to accommodate the first floor amenity space. The first floor commercial liner use along North Main Street has been increased via the reduction of 4 units, resulting in 65% of the liner being active amenity or commercial space. And then due to the liner modification, the facade along North Main Street has provided greater window space for the non-residential uses. Joe Tangart from Giffords Webster is here to provide a more robust review of their changes, and the applicants are also present for any questions.
Good evening, Joe.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, so they have made some modifications to the plan, and I'm going to go through what those modifications were, and then you are free to ask me any questions that you may have. So the unit count and mix has been changed, and that, of course, affects the parking. So the plan went from 60 to 56 units. That reduced the overall parking requirement from 81 spaces to 76. All of those are provided on site. The plan does still provide those 8 on-street parking spaces on the Main Street side. That's not included in that count. And then also you're going to get a few along Bowers as well, because right now there's nothing but driveways that lead onto Bowers. So there will be some public parking on the north side of Bowers when this project is done. So the previous unit total was 60 units, and they took out 2 efficiency units, one one-bedroom unit and one two-bedroom unit to get down to 56 units. And again, that parking requirement changed from 81 to 76. 76 is what they have on their plan. The room count, based on the way they're counted on our ordinance, went from 98 to 92. The building height has been raised a bit from 35 feet to 37 feet. 2 feet in height were added to the ground floor to bring its ceiling height closer to the required 15 feet. It's now 13 feet rather than 11 feet. The active liner use, as Nick mentioned, has been expanded. It previously took up about 33% of the front of the ground floor of the building along Main Street. It now takes up about 65%, so it's been doubled along that frontage. They did provide a letter that talks a little bit more about how that space is going to be broken up. Basically, half of that is amenity space for the residents, and the other half is going to be some sort of business retail space. Retail, of course, comes under our parking requirements, just like any other use in our city. But in the city center, we do have some mechanisms for waiving the on-site provision of the required parking for retail due to the availability of public parking. And of course, they are putting in those on-street parking spaces. If this were to have a retail use in that 2,500 square feet, you would have a requirement of 10 spaces, 8 of those are on Main Street, and then you'd get the other ones in that space that's being opened up on Bowers. So they're really actually providing all the parking for the retail in newly created public on-street spaces. They're also, in their letter, they detail a plan to provide money, kind of a fee in lieu, for maintenance of the public parking lots as one of their public benefits of the plan as well. They also, with the change to the liner use, they modified the east facade of the building. There's a very different window treatment for the non-residential uses and amenity spaces that contrasts it with the residential units. So I did update the summary of requested relief from ordinance standards in the table. The percent of efficiencies went from 36.7 to 35.7. And the other things that changed were there's now no request of relief from the residential parking requirement, and they're now asking for 65% of the frontage rather than 33% of the frontage. Did you have any questions for me? I know the applicant is also going to be speaking.
So I had a question. I noticed that on this map, there's a preponderance of the one-bedrooms are these B1 bedrooms, which are only like 76 square feet bigger than the studio apartments. So they're quite small. I couldn't find like any layout of those rooms to get an idea of how 76 square feet get you from a studio to a one-bedroom. I mean, it seems like there's some magic math going on.
I would actually say that the studio units are large for studio units rather than the one-bedrooms being small for one-bedroom units. As far as how that space breaks down, I can let the applicant speak to that a little bit.
Is it somewhere in here? I mean, I see it on this is page 70 of the packet. And on, I think this is, well, it's the third floor, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the bedrooms, 4 of the rooms on the third floor are these 1B, which are just a tinge bigger than a studio.
Sure.
And then again, on the second floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 of them are the 1B, which are the smaller ones, and the same thing. So the majority of the one-bedrooms are these ones that are just a tinge bigger than a studio apartment.
So when they came before us 2 times ago, I believe you and I both had concerns with the number of studio apartments. And if I'm not mistaken, they took the studio apartments that existed and turned them into one-bedrooms.
But my point is, I get that, but the point is it's only 76 square feet.
Because they
That's
use
not-
the same, if I'm not mistaken, you use the same space, you just turned them.
As the studios those are normal one beds, the studios are very big for studios.
Is there somewhere where there's a layout of that to picture that? I don't see that.
Presented it before, we can probably, we'll show it in this meeting, he'll pull it up.
You can pull it up. Cool. I'd like to just visualize that.
Sure.
Yeah.
In Hong Kong,
Mayor-
76 square feet is an entire studio apartment.
In Hong Kong, it's probably Manhattan.
And just for reference, in our zoning ordinance, the minimum size for an efficiency unit we have is 375 square feet. The minimum size for one bedroom is 500, two bedroom 700. So just for reference, compared to what they're providing, they are above our minimum requirements.
That's helpful.
Yep. Any other questions for me before we go to the applicant?
So the height requirement, were they, I don't recall, were they surpassing it before for the ordinance?
The ground floor ceiling height?
The actual height, the
Oh,
35?
you can go up to 42 feet. They're at 37 right now. They were at 35.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go up to 42 feet with the 10-foot setback on the third floor. So they're a little, they're 5 feet shy of the maximum height that's permitted there.
I guess what was the rationale? I mean, appreciate you going in the right direction, in my opinion, regarding the first floor, 2 additional feet. What was the rationale for not going further?
I would have to let the architect speak to that, but
Good evening, everybody. Jason Krieger with Krieger Cloud Architects. So the ground floor shares the retail, the amenity space, and apartments. So what we did is we kind of split the difference between the retail, which per the ordinance is 15 feet, and typically you'd have 11 for apartments. So right now, if you go into, so right now we're at 13 foot from floor to floor. So the apartments would finish out at like 11 feet, which is super tall ceilings. And so we don't want some cavernous thing. So we said, all right, 11 feet would be good for the retail and the amenity space, but that would also work out for the apartments, whereas 13 would be too big. That's where we came up with the number.
Okay. Joe, regarding retail parking, so what, is there an area that's defined on where they can park?
well, I mean, any public parking is going to be available to them. Like I said, they're creating 8 spaces on Main Street, and they haven't marked out spaces on Bowers, but you're going to get a few there too.
Okay.
Perhaps 4 or 5 maybe on Bowers. So there's a total of about 12 public parking spaces that do not exist now that are being created.
Now, when
there.
you say that includes across Main Street and south of 14 Mile, or just?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for any, if you go to any retail or restaurant use in downtown, you can use any of the public parking spaces. Yeah.
Speaking of parking, the 76 parking spaces you have now, I assume that's controlled parking, meaning residents only?
Yes.
And also, I'm assuming it's assigned parking, meaning resident on number 1, room 104 has 1 or 2 spaces assigned to him.
Right. I'm going to let them specify exactly how they handle that with their residents, but it will be signed for
Okay.
no public parking, yeah.
Okay. And also, not only, I just don't want it being a free-for-all, so it being private parking, that eliminates the public issue. And then internal to the tenants, I want to make sure they're not all wrestling to grab a parking spot, shall we say.
Each tenant would have a certain space or spaces assigned to their unit,
Okay.
yeah. That's worked out when they sign their lease contract.
But that leaves 0 extra spaces for guests of the residents. They would have to utilize our existing public parking or the additional spaces that will be created on the street. Correct?
We expect to not, we expect to have additional parking for some double units, for instance, they would have to pay extra for that second spot. And so we expect that there would be plenty of people who are not going to be consuming and having a need for all those spaces as well.
So if I understand, so 76 parking spaces is defined by the amount of rooms that
That's
are
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. If
Yep.
you can come up and explain, that'd be great.
76 parking spaces is by code, correct? If we have 58 or 60 in this, after we sign our leases and we have a 10 space extra, then we can look at if we decide to have a guest parking area that we can designate as well. If we use all 76, we use all 76, and then that's correct. By code, it's 76 units, and then a guest would have to park off-site. That's correct.
Have you spoken to the local businesses about the existing parking? Because I know we've mentioned it, and I know you're meeting code, but we recently did a walk around and spoke with some of the people who live at the ACE development, and one of their biggest concerns is, and they have assigned, designated parking there too. One of their biggest concerns is there's no place for people to park, and that's in the existing conditions. And then you're bringing, let's say, 60 more people with friends and relatives, that's going to add additional on top of that. And as much as, if you meet the requirements, that's great, but if you're still creating issues for your residents, that's not great either. So I just want to caution you on that, because just because the paper says it's good doesn't mean it's good for the environment around you. It's definitely not good for the businesses there who are already struggling to have people have places to park with their employees and with their patrons. And I didn't even think about the ACE development being problematic until several people brought it to my attention that they reside there and they have the same struggle. So you guys know we're really tight on this, and I know it can go through. I understand that, but the problem is bigger than just allotting the appropriate space for you, because it's a trickle-over effect for other people, and it creates a hardship for the businesses who are trying to stay, keep people in there.
I would say that, first, again, we do meet code, and two, we spoke and presented in front of the DDA, right, which, unanimously, at least as what their letter said, approved and put their support behind this project. I think adding the residents and the guests brings more to the downtown than the maybe 5 or 6 people who may park in the public lot, right? The guests at a time. You're also bringing residents to shop, eat, walk around, and, enhance the downtown as well, and the businesses.
Potentially.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to go back to the previous point about the room layout. So I was able to pull up a studio floor plan, which I can zoom in on a little bit to give more of that visual.
Hey, is that in our packet?
This was not in the packet.
Previous
okay.
package.
Previous
packages.
Yeah. So there's a main entranceway with the bathroom to the right when you walk in, and then it's just the open floor plan. And Jason, you may need to touch base on this a little bit, but with the sleeping area as part of the efficiency unit, I imagine that there would be a traditional wall along there boxing that room
It
in.
would get wider, like 2 or 3 feet. I forgot the dimensions.
Right.
And then that would provide a wall with a door. That would create the 1 bedroom.
A full wall or a half wall?
Full.
Full wall for the 1
So
bedroom.
the full wall would just, so there's just a kitchen, or I'm sorry, I'm just not visualizing.
Those pictures on the right kind of also,
Yeah, so there's a kitchenette right when you walk in. So there's the door, you walk in, to your left, there's the kitchenette. And then along the glass, that's the glass to the far, top of the sheet. Right now, in the studio, you have a sleeping area, and then you have a living area. So it's all kind of open. It's a true studio. Here's some examples. And then with the 1 bed, it would get wider because the exterior wall and the corridor line up, right, throughout the building. So then it would get wider, wide enough for us to put an actual full wall there with a door.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Was that correct when I said that you guys, when we questioned you on the number of studio apartments and wanted to change the configuration, requested that you perhaps change the configuration, that the footprint is exactly the same, you're just adding walls in those existing units?
Could we ask him to speak at the microphone?
no, there was a reconfiguration of all of the same footprint for the total building size, but all of the units had to change sizes. If you want.
Correct, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So it's not just adding a wall, it's making
No,
it
some 2 bedrooms got
wider
smaller,
so
some-
that a wall
correct.
could make sense in there.
Exactly. That's
Gotcha.
correct.
Could you please highlight what, my issue with this is, it's a PUD, and we are throwing a lot of our standards out to accommodate your project. Could you please, I know it's written here, but would you please highlight to us what the benefits to our community are, and don't say people coming downtown, because whomever comes, puts a development there, we're going to have the same thing. We're going to have people coming in, and we're going to hope that they're going to spend their dollars on these fascinating new businesses that are coming in and are well-established old ones that we all treasure. So other than the obvious, which is more people, or, people to live there to hopefully venture out, what do you offer that makes us say PUD is the way to go on this development?
Well, PUD from this development is public benefit, right? Public benefit of this is how does this benefit Clawson, right? And it benefits Clawson to me in a few ways. And obviously this is my opinion, and it may not be the same for everybody, but I think that this building currently as it sits is fairly obsolete, right? So it is taking an obsolete building off of in the city center, right? And it's turning it into what I consider a Class A beautiful mixed-use building to bring residents, to bring people to the city, and for people to start, the way we've kind of structured it, right, is to have studios, 1 beds and 2 beds to try to accommodate different types of people, whether it's someone just starting off or someone who's retiring and wants, somewhere to live downtown that they can walk outside and go eat at, the restaurants and be in the city. And for the city in general, right, I know we have a tax abatement. We guys have all discussed that multiple times. And by the time this project is completed and that tax abatement wears out, 5 or 6 years after this is, fully done, right, the tax revenue to the city will be significantly more than what it is today here with the project as is. I think for the long term of Clawson, it's the right project for Clawson. We took what you said at the last meeting to try to create more of that liner and extend the downtown as much as possible, right? So we'll have somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet of retail, just depending on what we can get in there. And then moving the lobby and the amenities down the road farther, and then just having a few units on the end of Main Street closer to Lincoln. And I think it helps extend the downtown and build a better Clawson. And to me, that's the benefit to the city here.
But that's a benefit we're going to get with any development on that lot. Like, what are you guys bringing to the table? That's really what I want to hear you say. Outside of that, if anyone else comes in and develops that property, we're going to get everything you just stated.
Madam Mayor,
It's an
are you
automatic.
referring to the monetary
Yeah.
overtures?
And I want him
Because
to
that-
say, period, like what the benefit is for the planned unit development. Like, the planned unit development is to bring us something unique and something that is of value to the community. What you've stated are valuable things. I'm not saying that they're not, but it's something we're going to get with any development that goes in there. Like, those are just automatics.
I think, just to rephrase,
Yeah.
and pardon me if I get this wrong, that we have ordinances in place, right, that could allow you to build something there. What is it about this development that brings more to the table than what our ordinance would normally allow?
Perfect. Thank you.
I think if you go by the ordinance as is, and again, we're in a PUD due to adding the one house to square out the lot, right, to make it a kind of a pure rectangle for traffic flow and just ease of the parking behind the building. If you did it by code, I think you get a project that, to be honest with you, would be subpar compared to this one. You get, either a Class B or just maybe a 3-tenant retail strip, right? But in the longevity in 20, 30, 40 years, you want to have, one, the tax revenue coming to the residents in that downtown to create a lively and, exciting city. And to me, that's the difference between, why we bought that lot to round it out for traffic, for parking, to increase the different things you can do with this lot. Without that lot, and we were just pure city center, right? You can end up with a Jimmy John's Chipotle there, right? And to us, this project for the city is a much better overall project. It's a $18 million or so development over a $4 million retail center there, right? And to me, that's the upside on this project. And that's why we went with a PUD and bought that lot to be able to do a project like this.
Jimmy John's is kind of delicious, so
Yeah,
just finish
I like
that,
Jimmy
but-
John's
no,
too.
Before we move too far forward, Mr. Tangari, last time you mentioned that there was addressing some of the residents' concerns about traffic. Can you talk about where that stands? And because that was some of before when we had public here, they were talking a lot about traffic. I just want to know how that's being resolved.
Sure. I mean, I guess there's a couple things to say about traffic. One is that a residential development is going to produce a lot less of it than a purely commercial development or a fully commercial ground floor. So you're creating less traffic with this development than you would with, more retail or restaurant square footage in the first place. As far as existing traffic problems that exist, particularly on Lincoln.
Right, that was their
which
concern about
which is
people
what's
passing
come up.
through,
Yeah,
right.
we are looking at some traffic calming measures because it's one of the few roads that goes all the way through from Maine to Rochester. So yes, we are looking at some
What's
potential.
a traffic calming measure?
So there's a whole chapter on it in the draft master plan, and basically this is everything from stop signs to road narrowing to, you pretty much name it, anything that will slow traffic or create less rapid flow through an area of vehicles. So this is obviously something that we're looking at no matter what happens with this site. This is a problem that exists now that we're talking about. But we're looking at kind of the suite of options that we could do as far as modifications to that road and some others around town that would perhaps slow things down through neighborhoods and create disincentives to pass through traffic that
So all that's
occurs
the
now.
city's responsibility and expense, though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But would it, I mean, if you had speed bumps at the entrance on their property, would that be a calming effect so that it wouldn't necessarily be, your first intent to go out onto Lincoln or come in from Lincoln because you'd be encountering those speed bumps?
Well, I mean, I don't know that would be much. I mean, you're already going pretty
I just
slow
throwing
in a
things out
parking
there.
lot.
Right? I mean, the other thing too is that since it's residential, you can't have a no right turn at that location, can you?
Yeah, I don't think so, no. But again, regardless of what happens here, Lincoln is one of the streets that we're looking at for certain traffic calming measures that could
Is there
potentially help.
How's Lincoln on the Pacer rating? Are we looking at that as part of?
I wish I had the pacer rating memorized by every line if I did.
That's all right.
I do just want to say is one thing that we've talked about with this site and the other development that we've recently had at 516 North Main Street is that there's signage that indicates people they cannot turn left onto Roth down into the neighborhood. And so this development will have that same type of signage. So residents of this development will be required to turn, trying to get my directions down, left onto Lincoln, so they're directed to Main Street, not towards the
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm
neighborhood.
saying.
That's
Okay.
that's the type of traffic directive we're going to have on site.
Okay, guys, that dovetail back with the loaded dice, same situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Which is suggestive, because you can't enforce that.
Well, you can if it's retail or it's something else, right?
Yeah. The police department will be able to enforce that.
Well, it's like the credit union, there's a don't turn left there, but I've been told it's not enforceable.
I think we've all probably ran a red light once or twice before as well.
Right? Is that term?
Police are listening, don't say that.
Note to everyone.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir?
would you indulge Michael coming back up and just mentioning for the public the additional public benefits?
Right.
So at the last meeting, sorry, my eyes aren't great. Thank you. We discussed adding a $90,000 donation to the city of Clawson as part of this project and part of the PUD. $25,000 for DDA beautification, used as the city wishes. $25,000 to increase or add to the citywide tree canopy around the city, $25,000 for parking improvements to city lots around the city, and then $15,000 for the dumpster enclosure improvement in the city, which I know has been an issue that's been brought up at our other meetings here that we've attended. So as part of that PUD, we would be making that $90,000 donation to the city.
Which is a good faith, goodwill thing, right? It's not enforceable, we're not asking
No, it's
you-
enforceable with a
It would be
PUD
part of the
agreement.
PUD agreement,
No, it's
they'd be
fully
required.
enforceable. And again, I wouldn't come up here and present it if I wasn't going to do it. That's not something we would do.
Okay, any other questions?
Just for the sake of argument, well, actually not argument, but.
Discussion.
Discussion, thank you. That if we were to approve this, one of the concerns I had expressed to Nick was the use of maples on this site. It just is, so you're aware, we have a moratorium on planting new maples. So
Sure.
whatever those are, we would like to have at least them be swapped out with
That's
something appropriate.
not a problem. Not a problem on our end. We could work with the city and whatever the city, if they can give us a list of what you guys would like there instead of the maples, we can work with that. Not a problem. Okay. Easy enough.
I think, Nick, what is the current taxes they're paying per year? About 50 to 60.
I think about 50 to 60,000 currently. Again, that does
Okay.
go up with construction. It
Oh,
just
we-
doesn't fully uncap until the
Right,
end of the 10 years.
Exactly, so that's what you're paying today.
Correct.
Now, right now, I think your overall investment is between 18 and 20 million
Yeah.
dollars.
That's correct.
So it's fair to say if you built wisely, the site would be assessed at 18 to 20 million.
Most likely, when it uncaps,
Okay.
it will be assessed
right.
between 18 and 20
So
million.
the SEV be about 9-10 million.
That's correct.
Times the 46 mills that we currently charge in Clausen, you're looking at roughly 400 and 450,000.
That would be about where it would be
Okay,
is
so-
our general guess.
Okay, so even at 400,000, roughly 40% of that goes to the city, about 160,000. About another 40% goes to the schools. That'd be 160,000. The other 40,000 or 80,000 would go into, county, state, things like that. So a lot of people say, well, what is the benefit? Well, one of the benefits, despite your goodwill contributions, which are very much appreciated, would be the additional $400,000 in taxes you'd be paying. I'm imagining you'd be one of the highest taxpayers in the city at that rate.
I don't know everybody else in the city, but I would assume
Okay.
it would be one of the higher taxes paid by any building in the city of Clausen.
Okay.
Us and Ace and probably the big shopping center with Staples and all of that is my guess, but
Okay.
senior living as well. I don't know if I don't know how that works, but
Okay. I guess our concern, this is a big
Sure.
decision, especially for the local people.
No, we
there.
understand.
So we have to weigh the positives and the negatives.
Completely
One of the
understand.
positives is a significant amount of taxes you'll be paying once your construction is complete. Another positive would be you'd be removing an eyesore and replacing it with something that looks pretty good. So these are the positives to look at. The negatives, I agree. I share the mayor's concern about parking. Although you meet all the codes.
Sure.
I have to admit, I think your business model is based on upscale single people with limited social lives. So I don't know the marketing, figure that one out, I'm not an expert. But I imagine you take your chances on that. So, I
Thank
mean,
you.
these are I guess I'm not really giving my opinion, I'm just kind of trying to
Understood.
balance the positives and
Understood.
negatives. It sounds like you've done your work on the traffic study.
Yep, we've tried to, we've gone through planning many times, and we came here, I think it's maybe our fourth or fifth time here, and we've really tried to, with the help of city council and city administration and engineers, both at Giffords and our team, put something that gets as close as possible to code while still provides the benefit to the city, still allows the building to be built from a financing perspective. And I think we've got to a place where, hopefully, we've give and take, and, again, like I've said, we expect to be residents here at Clawson for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years with this building, and we want to be active community members and expect to be active community members. And, this to us is a start, and hopefully it builds more into Clawson with us.
And if I could just reiterate my question again, your parking lot of 76 spaces is private.
Correct.
It's not a free-for-all.
Correct.
And amongst your tenants, they are actually assigned spots.
Yes, most likely they will all be assigned spots, and again, we'll have to lay that out, but yes, it would be assigned spots. It won't be a free-for-all in our parking lot for spots. And there's ways we can discuss doing that by adding, potentially a canopy in the back where someone's willing to park in the back because their car is covered, and different things like that we can work out. But yes, the goal will be to have every spot numbered or whatever it may be, that's my spot. I understand it. And maybe there's a premium for a close spot and it's free in the back, right? That's something we'll work out.
Okay. My only concern, and maybe you can allay my fears, is Bill's a really social guy. He has 2 assigned spots, but he takes one, he has his 4 friends come over. So his 4 friends are grabbing his second spot and 3 more on top.
Sure.
Would you have some kind of enforcement mechanism?
Yeah,
to
there
avoid that?
would be financial penalties to the residents in their lease, right? So if they're taking 4 spots and they have their guests, and it's pretty easy once, if it starts becoming an issue and who's doing it, right? And you figure out who's doing it, and there's penalties to that. And once those penalties are enforced, because again, I don't want a resident who's a paying resident calling me and saying, hey, I have an assigned spot and Bob next door always has his friends in my spot. I want out of my lease. That's worst case scenario for me. I've got to make sure my residents stay in their spots to keep the other residents happy over some friend who's coming to stay over. And residents will know when they come in, right? When they sign a lease in here or in Troy or in Ferndale, you're aware of how many spots you have and how the parking works. And you break those rules, there's consequences.
Okay.
Will there be a gate or something to keep your people in?
We can
and other
discuss that
people
with the
out?
city, but I don't know how that, most likely not a gate there, just because I think that causes traffic issues on those streets. But it would be for us to enforce, right? If the gate opens and closes every time someone is trying to get into the building. I don't think we'll be having a gate, but the parking with parking passes would have to be enforced by us. That's correct.
Well, I just would fear that you'll suffer what a lot of the other businesses on Main Street have suffered, where they have their own individualized parking and their neighbors encroach upon it, because people who are coming to patronize a business, they know they're in and out in 2 hours or an hour and a half, and they'll not necessarily care what the sign says.
Understood.
Right?
We
That's just
understand.
part of what you'll have to contend with, Nick.
Just to kind of follow up on that, the downtown master plan does call for exploring potential road diets on 14 Mile and North Main Street to try and maximize the on-street parking we have both on 14 Mile and North Main. I think North Main is maybe a little bit more achievable just because we already have South Main Street narrowed down to have parallel parking going both ways. And so that's something we're going to be exploring as the master plans continue to move forward. Hopefully later this spring we'll have that. And so we do have some potential solutions coming up in the near future to help parking regardless in downtown.
Well, that's the good part, right? If this gets approved, then the problem really is on us or on the city to address the parking issues, because we have them. Whether you guys come to town in this development or not, we currently have them, and it's something that we really have to take responsibility for, not just for you, for our existing businesses and people who live in town. It's something we definitely have to address.
Am I to assume that you'll have a sign up in your parking lot, private parking, violators will be towed?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's for sure.
And for the Allens.
Yeah, we'll have
That's
camera.
all.
So we'll have cameras in our parking lot as well, obviously. But it'll be private. It'll be private. It will be towed if you don't have a pass there. I mean that's and once your car gets towed once or twice or once, you're not parking again, right? And it's something to be active with, right? And it's on us to be active to make sure our residents are getting what they pay for as well. And that's our responsibility. Is we have to make sure that our residents are getting what they pay for, and that's the spot.
Okay, talked a lot of parking. Any other issues? Anyone has? No? Okay, well, thank you
Thank you.
for presenting to
Thank
us
you so
again.
much.
Thanks for making the adjustments. We appreciate that. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Binkowski,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I can say that we all appreciate your coming back and forth with us and trying to create an environment that works for all of us. It's not perfect in every form, but I'm confident you'll make good neighbors, and we'll work on the things we can work on as a city to alleviate some of the fears of the businesses around you and work to just make Clawson better. So thank you very much, and we welcome you to Clawson. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have item number 10. Do we have any unfinished business? Good answer. Moving on to item number 11, which is public comments for items not on the agenda.
Madam Mayor and City Council, Shar from Clawson Chamber of Commerce. I just want to remind everybody that our first Euchre of this year is Friday, January 17th. Registration is at 5:30. We will start eating at 6. The food is always good, right, Sue?
Yeah.
We have pizza, pasta, salad, breadsticks, every kind of beverage you can imagine, including lemonade, and then iced tea, tea, and hot coffee. Of course, cash bar. $25 if you're going to eat only. And some people say, why would people come to just eat? A lot of them like to watch what's going on and just enjoy the social part of it. But $35 if you want to play and eat. And we have 50/50 raffle prizes. We have our 50/50 raffle. We have raffle baskets to auction up. We do give out 3 cash prizes, and they're pretty good, like 75, 60, and probably 45. I can't remember now. But I hope people will come. We've got posters. We've got, I know it's on the city website, or the city emails and everything. And we put it out. I put it out to every Clawson, whether it be forum and everything like that. You can register online, which is easy, and it's on our website. So I encourage everybody to come. And you don't need a partner. And if there's people that won't play, we have a couple that are really pretty good at playing, and they're going to play in somebody's spot, so everybody will have a partner. And it's not competitive. Am I right, Sue? Not
Not
competitive.
supposed
It's
to talk,
fun.
but it's not. It's fun. I'm
It
not
is
a great
fun.
euchre player, but I always have fun.
Right. And thank you, everybody. And hope that if you can't come, maybe you'll encourage somebody to come. And then we'll have one in March and then again in the fall. So they've been very successful. Thank you. Oh, it's at Shields. I'm sorry. I guess because it happens so often, I didn't think of that. So
Thank you, Shar. Is there anyone else who has any public comment for us this evening? And we'll close public comment and move on to our city clerk's report. Michelle, do you have a report for us this evening?
Thank you. The only report is that, just to remind the council that we'll be bringing back the liquor license coin-op dance renewal for approval at the next city council meeting. And the boards and commission vacancies, appointments, reappointments, just to bring attention to that, we'll be forwarding off. I send the applications that we receive. We're getting some reappointments back in that will be forwarded as well.
Thank you.
And that's all.
Appreciate that. City Attorney's report, Mr. Newshire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of updates. First, as you recall, we've been defending a lawsuit from Jars Cannabis, who sought to have a writ arguing that our recent charter amendment to allow marijuana in the city should not become law in light of that Farmington Hills case that had gone through the Court of Appeals. Recently, the Farmington Hills case was appealed to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court declined to take up the issue. What that means is that the Court of Appeals decision on the Farmington Hills case is now effective law, and that means, well, in my humble opinion, for all intents and purposes, that means that the recent charter amendment cannot take full force and effect in this city. We'll be wrapping up, I anticipate, that lawsuit in Oakland Circuit that we're defending very shortly over the next couple of weeks, and probably by the next meeting, we may have consideration for you. We may have to go into closed session for consideration of entering into an agreement closing that matter. That's on that case. As Obviously, you may recall as well, we had a defendant that we prosecuted in the city that was found guilty on a jury trial. That matter was appealed. There was a couple of appeals. One is still pending, one that went all the way to the Court of Appeals. We had a decision rendered in our favor, obviously, and the defendant was sentenced today. So the victims in our city finally have had their, so to speak, day in court. Lastly, the marijuana issue that, pardon me, not marijuana, we spoke about marijuana, but the issue of the number of members of council, I'm still going back and forth with the Attorney General on their office and the governor's office with their approvals. I anticipate bringing that issue at the next meeting as well. If they make us make any modifications to the way that the language of the proposed charter amendments needs to be stated. In my humble opinion, everything is perfect as it is, but they have their own ideas, and we're going to bring that forward to you if they give us any indication that we should do so. Barring any questions from you, I have nothing else.
Thank you. We'll move to the city manager's report. Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just some construction updates. North Washington Broadacre water main replacement and road reconstruction is near completion. The road is open, and there are just a few minor items that still need to be completed to close out the projects. These items will be completed in the spring. Red Roof reconstruction is also near completion. The road is open. Also has a few minor items that will be completed and closed out in the spring. Sewer cleaning has started in the northwest section of the city and will continue to completion, weather permitting. We have a sectional map on the city's website that is updated as necessary, and it can be located under the DPW engineering / cleaning and televising sewers. We also make Facebook posts when that map is updated. City Council will have before them a resolution regarding the bond on the February 4th meeting, and Pat McGow, our bond counsel, will be in attendance for that agenda item. A reminder that Monday, January 13th at 7 p.m. at the High School Media Center will be the joint meeting between the Clawson Public Schools Board of Education and our City Council. Pending any questions?
The Massasoit water break,
Yes.
what was the final outcome, or is that still?
As far as the water was turned back on
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
Okay, so as far as that, the repair was it 6 feet was the crack? Was that what I understood?
It was large. It was large, and it was a 12-inch main.
Okay. So there's anything compromised on any of the residents' properties, or?
Nothing else that
Okay,
was brought
I
to
just-
my
I-
attention
I have-
other than the inconvenience of having a major water main break on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I think, what was it, we were impacted as far away as a mile, from what I understand?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But everything considered, I think, I mean, our staff and our residents responded very cooperatively.
Admirably, commendably, yeah.
Yes.
And that's the thing, I just, I want to give that kudos. I just have visions of some of the ruptures that happen over on the east side, and sinkholes happen for something that's as large as that.
Don't have those visions. Please.
Okay, then let's move on to city council comments. Councilmember Binkowski.
Nothing for me.
Councilmember Moffett.
I guess I just want to piggyback on the euchre tournament thing. It is a lot of fun, a lot of raffle baskets, and you don't have to be very good at euchre. It's just a lot of fun. There's no one mean or anything, so consider coming out.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
No comments.
And Councilmember Shepherd.
No comments.
Okay, I would just like to say, since Christmas, over Christmas, I went to the Hunter Community Center and participated in a Christmas luncheon, and it was a lot of fun. Santa Claus came for all the good people at the Hunter Community Center. And then on the second, the Hunter Community Center had another big event, which was a Happy New Year themed luncheon, which they had a musician that was quite exceptional, and they had a packed room 2 times in a row. And I would just like to say, if you have nothing to do, check out Hunter Community Center, because Scott Jennings, Lisa Ball, and the crew there, Rebecca runs a Fierce Kitchen. They get things out, and people are very helpful. And We have great programming in Clawson. If you don't know, I mean, you may just not know what happens here, but there are some really great things you can take part in. The library constantly has activities for young and old alike. We worry about what our taxes go to. Part of our taxes go to those things. You can go there and hang out with great people and maybe enjoy part of your day. And then as I was driving here tonight, it was just a little bit dark, and I was noticing the lights out still, all of our Christmas decor throughout the town. And I wanted to thank the DPW for making our community look a little festive during the holiday season, and then also apologize in advance that it's so cold outside and you'll probably have to take all that stuff down in 20-degree weather. But we really appreciated it, right, everyone?
Yep.
Right, okay, that's it. Thank you to the new businesses who are in town, and we look forward to having you here, and thank you to everyone else. Let's call for a dismissal.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Binkowski?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Meeting dismissed. Have a great evening.
Yeah, getting there. Like I said, graduated Kane. So we're slowly, I'm at the point now,